It's the end of the world, and I feel fine. So, the book of Revelation is a very interesting read. Now I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seven seals, and I heard one of the four living creatures say, "Come," and I saw, and behold, a white horse, and the rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. It can sometimes seem like the end of the world is something that's happening right here, right now. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, which I was just reading from there, is a story about war and destruction and famine coming into the world. And sometimes it can seem like that's exactly what's happening now. So, for example, you can look, and I've got this little article here from the paper about a guy called Andrew Tate, who is using the internet to spread misogyny and hate, and to generally wind people up. And people talk about social media, but of course social media seems to be the very thing that is most winding people up, people getting themselves stressed, girls committing suicide because of the impact of social media. These are all things that dominate our news headlines. It can seem like we live in a very, very bad world indeed. On top of that, you've got Russia invading Ukraine. On top of that, you've got the collapse of nature. You've got climate problems left, right and centre. What a world we live in. And yet, of course, we live in a world which is also one where racism is challenged, where people have much more freedom to express their sexuality, and they have much more freedom to be the people that they want to be. In so many ways, it's a great and an inclusive world, much more so than the one that I grew up in, and much more so than the ones of the past. Because the past, surely that's the bad time. Every time you look at the papers, you read about how bad the past is and how much it needs rewriting because of its effect. And that's true. Crikey, so many bad things happened in the past. And I'm not just here talking about things like the racism that existed. That was awful. Slavery, that was awful. Let me give you just one example, though, to illustrate how bad the past was. The Battle of Borodino in September of 1812, so many people died, and this is a famous analogy which really struck me and really impressed me. It was like an area the size of Liverpool city centre, in which a jumbo jet crashes every 3 minutes between dawn and dusk. That's how many people died in that battle. Oh my goodness me. Well, we don't have that problem so much anymore. We don't have apparently the wars and the destruction which caused so many to die. Any story of history seems to be a history of people being killed in wars, people being hurt in wars, people being the victim of racism, of sexism, of rape, of dreadful, dreadful things. The past seems like a bad thing. And yet it wasn't, of course, because there was greater sense of community. There was much more a sense of people being able to support one another within their villages. The arts and crafts movement is an interesting example, which was precisely set up to look back on a golden age of the past where perhaps people did look after one another more and took more time and more trouble over things and cared more about those things. What's the point of today's presentation? Well, of course, it's a dead straightforward point. What we worry about in the present existed in the past just as bad. And what we like about the present, other things were also good in the past. You could call this presentation Too Good and Too Bad, because I've tried to show just simple examples of things that are good now and are bad now, were good then and were bad then. And of course the point I'm trying to make is a dead straightforward point. The past isn't always a greener place, and the present isn't always a better place. But the present isn't always somewhere that's losing good things, just as the past wasn't. You have to have a sense of balance and a sense of perspective. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Come on, let's keep it going here. Thank you very much. See you again next week.